Hi, this is Sonal from Healing Our Soul. So, sometime back, I was talking about relationship goals and how can you actually avoid self-abandonments. So, I'm going to just expand that a little bit as that's what some of you have requested. How often have you abandoned yourself, your needs, your requirements to please the people around you or your loved ones? And we all do that very often. We are so busy taking care of the other that we actually abandon ourselves and what we desire, my choices. So, going into it, I'm just going to be reading some of the parts that I did put in. Um, I had said that where I had left off, we judge ourselves rather than accept our situations. My shadow is judging people. And when I learned that 2 years back, I realized that I started a pattern where instead of people judging me, I became my own biggest critic. I started judging myself much more, in the extreme case. I judged myself more extreme so that it won't hurt me when other people judge me. But the truth was, it wasn't just my own self judgment that started hurting me. I was also still being affected by people judging me. So it was like double poison given to myself. And the day I realized that I was so affected by what people said about me was the day I sat down and I really worked on myself. Because there's a reason why something triggers us. And if you actually, pick that trigger and you remove the button that has been created, it starts to slowly wear off. And that's what we need to work on. The trigger buttons that we have self-created ourselves. And when you get that trigger button taken away from your system, hallelujah. And the second part was how we ignore our feelings by staying up in our head rather than being present in our body. Very often, our internal dialogues in the mind is what's frustrating. We tell ourselves so much of stories and we actually manipulate ourselves, believing in something that doesn't even exist. Sometimes relationships, words that are, they've been words that have been said. I myself had a tendency, or we all do, where we distort, we delete, we start to read between the lines, and we are prepared to believe that. And only when you sit down and talk to the other person, you realize that the other person did not mean exactly what you felt was what you received. And not only that, I noticed when I would communicate with people, they misjudged my words and my sentences too. They felt that I was manipulating my thoughts, I was manipulating my words, and that's exactly not what I was doing. I was just speaking my mindless brains. And it was very amazing when I was working on myself, or even when I was working with my clients, to realize that how often we are actually deleting and distorting, and we are taught this in NLP. And when you actually are in awareness of how your program works and you start working around it, you stop to have this internal dialogue and you actually see people for who they are. You listen to what they are saying. And if you don't understand it, you are actually okay and you feel safe to actually communicate that with them. Like, this is what you said and this is what I perceived, and could you just expand and explain that even more? And don't feel fearful to ask for that, because that's where I was stuck. I was always fearful to ask again and again because I was scared to be conceived or perceived actually as dumb. And that's my story. So find out what's your story and try to actually break the pattern. The third one was return to various addictions to numb the anxiety, depression, emptiness, guilt, shame, and anger that develops when we judge ourselves and ignore our feelings. A lot of time when I work with addictions, I always tell them reach a point when you actually took what you wanted to, or you did what you wanted to, trying to the aim is obviously to distract yourself. So just before the distracting habit started, 2 minutes prior to it, what were you thinking? What was the emotion you were feeling, and what were you trying to avoid? Because when you go down your layers to see what you're trying to avoid, bingo, because that's exactly what needs to actually be healed. And the fourth one was we make our partner or others responsible for our feelings. Well, that's the biggest mistake. If you're upset, you're feeling low, you're feeling hurt, you're feeling angry, there's something in you that's being triggered. There's something in you that needs healing. There's never been something on the outside. The outer person or the outer environment is only there to trigger in you what hasn't been healed. So, guess what? If there's some triggers that are still surfacing, it's only a lesson in you that needs to be healed. Once you have the lesson, you close the book and you take the learning into your present and you move forward. So try to sit down with yourself and just see where have you actually self-abandoned yourself and where do you need help. And sit down and sometimes maybe just journaling and to understand your inner thoughts can help you. If not, I'm always a phone call away.